Welcome to Emotional Resilience, Living with the Fruit of the Spirit. I'm your host and author, Ron Ovitt. Today we're on lesson 22. We're starting a series that I call MindSkills. And today's going to be an introduction, and I'm calling it Driven to Distraction. You know, we live in a world today where we're distracted all the time. We have phones that constantly ring and ping, and we have, interruptions all the time. If we're curious about something, we go and immediately Google it. We go to a restaurant, we want fast service. And so we're going to be talking about mind skills that are going to help regulate our emotions and help us with this distraction. And today we're going to introduce focused attention. And then next lesson, we'll go and start some exercises that will help us with that. Our brain is designed to respond swiftly to threats. In an ancient world, there were many physical hazards that we had to respond to quickly in order to survive. But today, in a modern world, the dangers we faced have changed. Most are not literal life to death or scenarios. But our bodies still respond with that intense biological changes needed for the fight or the flight. When faced with a threat, our brain senses danger, it makes a split-second decision and begins the fight, flight, freeze response by releasing stress hormones before the thinking part of our brain has time to overrule it. This cascade of events triggers the release of stress hormones, and we find it increasingly difficult to problem solve and concentrate when that's going on. This whole process takes a significant toll, and you may not recover to your original level of functioning for several hours. And we're constantly going into this fight and flight, but it isn't always someone that's really dangerous chasing us. Sometimes it's what we think someone might think about us. It might be, well, gee, I didn't do good on that, therefore they won't like me. Or it might be, gee, I wonder if I did okay at work. What if I lose my job? Now, some of these are more concerning than others. But we're reacting as if it's a life and death scenario, and so it causes all kinds of stress in our body. And it causes emotional reactions, and that's why we want to talk about resilience. We want to be able to recognize when it's happening, and now MindSkills is going to take us more into the regulation. Although today we're going to talk really about both recognition and regulation. When we're triggered regarding a fear, a habit, or addiction, it sends a signal to the brain, creating stress in the form of agitation. Remember when we talked about dopamine? I gotta have it, right? I say agitation because the purpose of the signal is to get us to respond. It's like the shrill sound of a smoke detector. It's a shrill because they don't want you to get comfortable when there's a threat of danger, or a fire in that case. The part of the autonomic nervous system that responds is the sympathetic nervous system. It's like the gas pedal on a car. Boo, we gotta go. Pooh, step on it, right? We gotta move, get out of the way. That's the sympathetic nervous system. It gets the engine revving. And what we then need to do is, once danger is in there, the parasympathetic nervous system comes on. And that's like the brakes. We want to put on the brakes. It calms things down. And so we try to talk our way down, but unfortunately the parasympathetic nervous system doesn't respond to verbal pleas. It responds to the mental and physical signals of relaxation and calm breathing, things that we're going to learn. That's what emotional regulation is. We need our body to signal, hey, everything's okay. We have talked about some of the reactions we have as a result of stress and trauma. We have given you a list of emotions and sensations and beliefs that you can look at, things that might need to be changed, right? We need to be able to regulate our emotions, calm down those sensations, change some of the negative beliefs that aren't true about ourselves. And that's where MindSkills comes in. These are techniques that work with the connection between the body and the mind. Why do we need this? Because emotions are really sensations in the body. The root word in emotion is to move. It means to move. And what we notice later then is how we feel, right? I feel sad or afraid. And when you think of it, the body's associated with each of those, right? You can feel sadness in your face, in your shoulders, in your chest. Fear is felt in the stomach or the tightness in your chest, along with different tension in your arms and your legs. If indeed you are going to be able to overcome emotional response, if we're going to be resilient, we have to master recognizing these physical cues as early as possible before it becomes overwhelming. Because when the brain hijacks it, boy, we're off and running. But if we can start sensing it early, we can head it off before it gets too much. We need to then regulate it back down to normal. We call that emotional recognition and regulation, right? And so the key to overcoming that emotional alarm is cultivating the ability to first recognize when we're being overly emotional. That's emotional recognition. And then we want to regulate it and return to the fruit of the Spirit, the love, the joy, the peace, the patience, the kindness, the goodness, the faithfulness, the gentleness, and self-control. Those are things that we can return to as we regulate ourselves. And then we want to return to that joy and peace. And MindSkills exercises are designed to help us recognize our emotions and learn how to regulate them, and then replace erroneous beliefs with the truth about ourselves and the world in general. And that's where we get into the emotional relearning, and that's where we're heading. MindSkills, which are all about the emotional regulation, helps us acquire new thinking and behavior and extinguishing old ones. This is accomplished through a creation of new neuronal pathways, right? We have well-worn pathways in our brain that cause us to react, the quick twitch, right? And what we want to do is to be able to extinguish some of those and create new ones, new ways of reacting, new ways of behaving. And because our brains have a spiritual capacity, we want to allow God and the power of the Holy Spirit to work in us as well. And God can help rewire our brain. He can help us remember some of the important things about spirituality that He has for us, that gives us the peace. After all, it's the fruit of His Spirit that we want to see in our life. There are benefits of MindSkills. And the benefits of participating in this is that we can learn to be in the moment. So often, we're either thinking about the past, mistakes we've made, what people have said to us, hurt that we've had in the past, or we're thinking of the future, what's going to happen. We're predicting all this bad stuff, and it's very hard for us to be in the moment. And even if we're in the moment, like the title says today, we're driven to distraction. How long can we really focus on something before we're thinking of something else? And so part of our MindSkills is going to teach us to be into moment. It's going to help us become aware of the messages being relayed to us by our inner critic, right? We're going to help recognize the mood by sensing the cues in our body. And we're going to become an observer of self rather than simply reacting. We want to be reflective versus being reactive. Now, as we practice some of these MindSkills, and sometimes you're going to be asked to remember the past and things, and the goal here is not to make you feel unsafe. At any time you're recalling a memory and feel unsafe, simply switch the way you experience it. Instead of remembering it as a participant, view the memory as a detached observer, watching from a distance. Watch the action and the reactions of those involved, slipping in and out of being yourself in the memory as it feels safe. Remind yourself you're here now. Remind yourself, and not back in the memory. You can still gain the benefits of doing the exercises without re-traumatizing yourself. If trauma, though, however, is too extensive to participate as a detached observer, we'll discontinue, calm down, relax, and seek a professional that might be able to help you with that. That should be a cue that, hey, I really have some unfinished business to do. because we don't want you to live a life full of dread and fear and anxiety because of the past. We want you to overcome that kind of reaction to the trauma that you've had. The goals of MindSkill is to turn off that internal false alarm, to calm down ourselves, to observe our internal distractions without judgment. We want to return from our distraction to the fruit of the Spirit, that love, joy, and peace, and patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And we emotionally want to relearn the truth about how loved and significant and safe and precious and full of purpose we really are. So what are some of the mind skills that we'll be learning? Well, in this program, we'll be learning about focused attention. Like I said, we'll start that today. We'll continue it in the next lesson. We're going to do exercises on breathing, on relaxation, the use of our imagination. We'll talk about belief exchange, the use of affirmations, and the spiritual disciplines. How all of those will help us change the way we react, change the way we believe, and allow us to live in that joy and peace that God created for us. Now, spirituality is an important part of this program. And spirituality can be a big help when it comes to changing our behavior. You know, the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, the first 3 illustrate the importance of spirituality in overcoming habits and addictions. The first 3 steps. 1 says we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and our lives had become unmanageable. The second one said we came, though, to believe in a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And then the third one says we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. The good news here is that, we're talking about Christian spirituality. And rather than a God of your choice, we're talking about a God that chooses you. Now, I've been in the ministry for many decades, and during the time I've seen many variations of spirituality come and go. I've seen the meaning change and morphed into many different kinds of expressions. In this program, we choose to represent Christian spirituality. With its doctrine encapsulated in the Bible, the written form, Word of God, which is familiar to most people and readily available, with the availability of churches that you can go to in every neighborhood, the vast amount of Christian popular and reference books as well, worship music, and abundance of parachurch nonprofits, Christian radio stations, TV programs. It gives us a good framework from which to work. If you decide to really use our Christian spirituality, there'll be a lot of help for you, a lot of support. Well, let's talk about what mind skills are not. When I start to talk about mind skills, many people start to get concerned. What's Ron teaching? There's a lot of confusion. All you have to do is Google meditation and you'll get into some pretty extreme programs. When we come into this arena of thinking, you'll see that the landscape is full of religions, mysticism, New Age practices, paranormal teaching, exercises, and metaphysics. I feel it's important that you know what MindSkills is not for 2 reasons. 1, so you do not get involved believing that I'm teaching something that I'm not. 2, so you can get involved with us knowing what I won't be teaching, okay? What MindSkills are not. MindSkills is not emptying our mind. Many of the meditation practices put a high priority on relaxation and tranquility, with some that teach we're to empty our mind. Well, no, we use relaxation and we strive for inner peace, but we do it with an active mind, a mind that is deliberate in thought and discipline and purposeful in its meditation. MindSkills is not oneness with the universe and its energy. There's a lot of talk about energy today. Our goal is not to tap into a cosmic energy. Rather, the goal of MindSkill meditation is to become aware of our own inner activity, meditate on our own self, and then communicate to God Himself. It's not hypnosis. There's no use of a technique to open oneself up to someone else's control. we do use visualization to help us change, but it's not an auto-suggestion to our subconscious mind. Rather, our many mind skills are a deliberate and direct influence on a conscious state of mind. We're not invoking spirit guides. MindSkills do not advocate any New Age practice of spirit guides. We come from a Judeo-Christian frame of mind and use memory, role play, invoking the presence of God through the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit to make a difference. And it's not astral projection. There's no conjuring up the practice of magic, spiritism, or non-Christian supernatural powers. Instead, we use guided meditation and deliberate visualization interjected with prayer. This is a Christian spiritual practice. And it's not altered states. Although we use memory and visualize role play to help correct false beliefs that we believe in the past, we do not attempt to become anything else than who we are. And it's not some unrealistic Pollyanna affirmations as well. We use affirmations, but they are ownable and reachable. They address the truth of the situation. If I am ignoring a true situation in my life and think I can affirm it away, my mind won't believe it. So what techniques will we need to acquire if we're going to effectively use our right hemisphere of our brain in healing emotions? Well, there are basic skills that we need to master that will serve in different capacities in this program. Almost everything we do in MindSkills will include one or more of these skills. Focused attention. That's the ability to concentrate on something either inside or outside ourselves with minimum distraction. Breathing. A simple exercise where we focus on our breathing in order to relax and increase our awareness of things going on. And body relaxing. This is a simple skill to allow us to quiet ourselves and become present in the moment. And then quieting ourselves. This is the exercise to help us quiet our self-talk, relax, and build up our ability to focus and become aware of what is going on inside us. And then body awareness. This is the consciousness of what's going on in our body. Facial, muscular, appendages, visceral, all produce sensations that we need to become aware of. And we're going to work on each one of these skills. And that's where results will come from. Now, some of this may be new to you, but I promise if you practice them, they will change your life. Practice is the key. It's like any other skill. You get better with time. The good news is that these techniques aren't that difficult, and learning and proficiency will come fast. It's not like learning to play an instrument. It's not exhaustive theory to learn, chords to memorize, or difficult skills to learn. These are easy, natural processes you were born with, but just have not used much. You will learn quickly and may be amazed at the difference it will start making in your life. But to really change, once we get to doing it, we have to continue. Almost every program I've ever been involved with that makes significant change takes at least 6 months. 6 months of focus and 6 months of working it. But you know what? You're going to be somewhere 6 months from now. Why not better? Why not doing these things? And you can. So don't give up. As we go through these next lessons, stick with it. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. Now let's finish this session just by introducing focused attention. Now we know that stress is a major figure in triggering us. The problem is by the time we notice the emotion is already, going and we're pretty deep into it, right? The hope lies in recognizing our sensations before we get overly emotional. Sensations are really at the root of emotions. And so, we want to be able to catch it, to focus on it, to be able to really work with the things that are going to help us. We have to hone our ability and learn focused awareness. We're driven to distraction. We hear so much about ADHD today. In 1994, the book Driven to Distraction sparked a revolution in our understanding of attention deficit disorder. Widely recognized and a classic in the field, that book has sold more than 1 million copies. And since then, they've written other books on ADHD. Now, I myself have symptoms of ADHD. I was a very hyperactive child. I would daydream, be easily distracted. I tend to be a piler rather than a filer. I was subject to high anxiety and could only read a while before I got distracted. I was very creative and loved entrepreneurism. It was my norm. And I'm thankful that I also looked for ways, though, to compensate. We didn't talk about it back then. I had to learn to compensate, and I was able to. And I've helped others be able to do the same. So I've lived not really paying that much attention, but it's become so popular, I was forced into really studying it. And what's so interesting to me is that you can take what I have studied, and that is childhood trauma and the dysregulation of the brain due to childhood trauma. Well, there's a dysregulation of the brain in ADHD, and it's amazing to me how similar they are. In fact, I put a chart in your lesson that you can look at, and if you don't have the lesson, I encourage you to get it. You can write me at ron@empowerministry.org, ron@empowerministry.org, and I'll send it to you. You know, you need to read these lessons. You need to go through it, and then go through the discussion questions if you're really going to get the meat out of this, okay? And what's interesting is when you look at the similarities of ADHD and the brain dysfunction from trauma, some of the ones that are common are the things that we need to work with. And so the good news is that the mind skills that we're going to have and the focused attention exercises and others that we're going to do are going to help you with both. Look at what's the shared symptoms. There's hyperactivity, impulse control, agitation, irritability, outbursts, disorganization, poor self-esteem, poor concentration, restlessness, inattention, high rate of self-medicating, easily distracted, difficult with sleep, not able to listen all the time, and having memory issues. These are common to both. And the good news is we do some of these exercises, we'll be able to really improve. I'll also be giving you lists of programs out there. There's a lot going on now with the computer that we can do and the apps, and I'm just so excited about where we're going. Well, focused awareness and attention will help us. Attention is at the heart of change. We cannot regulate our emotions if we don't sense that they're out of skew. We can't sense something is wrong if we don't become aware of it, first in our body. You know, we want to be able to use focused attention. And so we'll be able to do that. And we'll look at different kinds of attention. There's that sustained immersed, right? That's the kind of attention that is sustained, kind of immersed focus that allows us to get immersed into something, and time seems to fly by. It's like when we're reading a book and engrossed in a video game or movie. That's one form of attention. Then there's the large picture, the holistic. This is where we're talking about a much broader view. It's like standing on an observation platform looking out over the valley. You get a large panoramic view. That's a certain kind of focus. Then there's the selective narrow focus. It's where you put your attention toward one thing and concentrate on it. And we'll spend a lot of time doing that at our work sometimes and other things like that. Then there's the objective observer. This is where we're focusing on something to gain a perspective or to help understand a situation. It's where we spend time studying, right? You know, it's not like we're immersed in a novel, but rather it's focused in order to gain knowledge. And then there's that multitask split, right? That's where we're focusing on more than one thing at a time. And we do that more and more, don't we, with the new technology and all the media. And then there's that alternating switching. It's different than multitasking. It's probably one of the most prevalent type of attention that we participate. It's where we're focusing on one thing, and then we're interrupted, and we need to focus on something else. And that can really be a problem. We want to be able to help ourselves to be able to focus more, okay? So we're going to start in the next lesson, we're going to start working on exercises that will help us with attention. We'll explain more of that as we go on. So please read over the notes, do the discussion questions, and next week we'll start on some focused attention exercises. Thanks for joining us today on this Emotional Resilience Living with the Fruit of the Spirit class. Please share this video with others. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of the other exciting classes. You can also, for books and videos and podcasts, you can go to our website, ronovitt.com, and find out more information.